D-Day, June 6, 1944, a day that changed the course in World War II and changed the course in history. This year marks the 76th anniversary of one of the most famous invasions we have ever seen. The Allied forces began loosening the death grip of the German stronghold in France. And although the battle was very bloody and the casualties were very high, it changed the outcome of the war. It did not end the war that day, but it turned the tide in favor of the United States and the Allied forces. Our brave men took on a giant and stood in the midst of overwhelming odds that mounted up against them. What overwhelming odds are you up against today? For some, it's alcoholism or drug abuse or loneliness or depression, while others may be facing financial difficulties or health challenges. Whatever it is, today is your day. Today is your opportunity to turn the tide in the war that rages against you. A few days ago, I had the opportunity of visiting with a friend of mine, Kyle Saylors, with Saylors Brothers Entertainment. Kyle is an accomplished director and filmmaker, and along with his brother Kenny, they have several movies on Amazon Prime, including the inspiring Vale of Tears. He also is the founder of Dinner with Dreamers, a group with the intent of connecting creatives in a fun atmosphere. But before all of this, find out how this guy from a little rural town in Texas overcame his overwhelming odds and had his D-Day of being shy. And on his D-Day, find out what the results were. Take a look.
Somehow randomly through this life, we've ended up living in or around the same cities at multiple places around the earth.
For those of you who don't know, we have something in common. We're both preachers' kids.
Oh,
okay?
Yeah.
And in fact, Kyle's parents pastored the same church that my parents pastored. They just pastored it a few years before we did, a little place called Nocona, Texas. And then a few years later, we ended up in Bible school together and hung out there. And then as the years went on, and
then I ended up in Lufkin, and you were in Livingston.
Yeah, which is right there close. Yeah.
And then now we're in Tennessee.
Yeah. And Kyle, I just your story just amazes me. You wanted to be a filmmaker from an early age, correct?
Yeah. So when we were kids, I mean, it was as early as I can really remember. We used to get our G.I. Joes, and we would go and make little movies with our VHS camera.
Right.
And but we probably, I don't suggest doing this, but we would take WD-40 and a lighter and go to explode them on the camera. But
awesome.
we started making little short films before there was a thing, and before we even had a video camera, we would record movies on a cassette player. Man, this makes me sound old. But we recorded them on a cassette player, and we would listen back to the movies, like on our trips. So it's kind of like we had an iPod, but it's like a cassette player. We would listen to movies, and so which is kind of funny. If you're listening to Rambo, there's not a lot of dialogue. It's pretty much,
Right.
And so, but basically, we just always had this fascination. I think it was really Steven Spielberg that his movies that he was associated or directed, but like Back to the Future, Indiana Jones, The Goonies, those type of movies that had this kind of like wonder and awe and adventure, that's what really probably changed us. And we were living in just little tiny Texas towns where there's really not a lot of opportunity and not a lot of adventure that's any not trouble.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so somehow that instilled in this desire to just like make movies, and we didn't know what it was. We loved TV show, I guess, with our dad. He was busy and he worked, he was a cop, a pastor, a truck driver, two at a time or one at a time, whatever it is. And so a lot of times with our dad, it was the time we would sit down and watch TV shows together, whether that's the A-Team or, from I Love Lucy. We couldn't watch a whole lot of shows, but we got the, my mom was pretty strict on what we could watch. So we didn't even know, my brother had a crush on Annette Funicello, and Haley Mills, and he didn't even realize till he saw her on a TV interview that she was the age of my mom. He was like, "Oh no!" But
Right.
anyway, so yeah, like movies and television and the stories just always fascinated us, and that was our kind of escape mechanism into peeked into another world.
I know as preacher's kids, you weren't allowed a lot of the stuff that other kids was allowed to do. I don't know about y'all, but our family, we wasn't allowed to go to the movies.
No.
Now we could watch it on television,
Yeah.
but it had to be rated G pretty much for us to watch. When was it that you decided that this is what I want to do in life? I want to make movies.
I mean, we kind of decided that as kids, but then we get out in the world and we have no concept or direction or connections, nothing. And so I don't know how, but all three of my mom's kids ended up in the entertainment industry, and none of us had any inkling or idea that how to do it or whatever. But so we started with where we were, and ironically, we did a lot of youth conventions, and we got into drama, youth conventions, live stage stuff. We ended
Right.
up starting a restaurant. We ended up ended up promoting a music festival down on Galveston Island. We did all kind of stuff. I just kind of like came and came. Each one of those realized, wow, I don't want to do this for a living.
Right.
But we still didn't understand how to get into film and television. And so it was actually my brother. He got an opportunity somewhere to dig ditches when we was in college, and at TBN in Dallas at
Yeah.
the International Production Center.
Right.
And so he's sitting there, and they just liked him, and they're like, "Hey, man, you want to come work here?" At the time, I was still down in Galveston putting on concerts and stuff. And so anyway, he did, and 6 months later, he ended up being Paul Crouch's, who was the founder,
Yeah.
his personal camera, and his first airplane flight ever was on a private jet.
Wow.
And so to my mom, we had arrived, like we're working out there with, but to us, we felt like it was, we spent quite a number of years. But so I got on there via my brother to start with like grip and camera on the local show, and then grip and camera. Like grip is just running cables, camera on the national show, and then floor direct and different things and capacities all over the studio. But that was our first induction, and then what we realized was these people are no different than us. Like
Right.
that kind of takes away. You see people on TV, and you kind of put them on a pedestal, like there's some kind of special human
Right.
that we are not. And then you meet them in real life, and you realize, no, they're
Oh,
just
wow.
a knucklehead.
We had mentioned it at the beginning of the video. Your shyness was kind of a big obstacle for you growing up. Would you mind telling us about that and telling us how you got through that, how you overcame that?
So, like, obviously, the entertainment industry, it's a people industry more than anything, I think. So I was so shy that, like, people didn't know I was even in the room. Like, I was just an invisible character. The reason I was like, I don't know, what would I say to this person? I don't know. Even though it's small schools, and in tiny schools, everybody kind of knows each other, even if you don't know. But, like, I only had a handful of friends, like Rex Johnson, Luke McKittrick, and then I moved off, Dustin Vass, a couple more there. Like, I can literally, like this. My friends were not very deep. And, as far as, friends I hung out with all the time and stuff. And most of my friends were friends of Kenny's that I kind of adopted. I guess they adopted me. And, but yeah, I had to go to speech class when I was in elementary because I had a lisp. And then, so I thought, wow, I'm in the special room. So, I was
Same
like,
here.
yeah. And then, and so I don't know. I literally couldn't carry conversations. But what I did is I would listen to everybody. And so I might be sitting in the middle of class, and I'd listen to the jocks and the emos and the this and that, and all these different groups, kind of cliques.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized they all talk about the same thing. All pretty much, they watch the same movies. They just have a different, emblem on their jacket or
Right.
a different shirt or a different side of town. So I realized even from that age, there's not a lot of difference between everybody.
Well, what was your turning point? What pushed you over the edge to change and to get over that shyness? What was your D-Day experience?
So I went to college, and first I went to East Texas State University, and they had just put in they had a film and television program there, and it was close to where we lived. I went there for one semester. About halfway through the semester, I was like, I don't know, these guys just don't seem like they know anything. And so I was like, I raised my hand. The only thing I ever said all year, the first time I ever said anything almost in a class, and the teacher or the professor said, yes. And I said, so have you ever done anything that's actually aired on television? Well, I didn't know he was
Wow.
I was like, the whole class went total
I
silence.
can imagine.
And it was just, and he said, what does that matter? In my mind, I was like, I can't, you haven't done it, so how can I learn from you? So I left that school. Anyway, I was going to go to Southwestern, and I thought, these people don't know who I am. They don't know I'm a nerd. They don't know anything. So I said, I'm going to reinvent myself. So I went to this campus days. I loved it. So I was like, okay, I know I'm going. So I read a bunch of books, and I started, listening to these seminars and this and that.
Right.
And so, but the one that changed my life was How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Good book.
And
Dale Carnegie.
yeah, and it's from like, I don't know when that was, but like the
early 19,
or something, like long ago.
So it's an old book, but
Yeah.
the concepts are very,
The
very
concepts
up
are
to
eternal.
date. Yeah.
It was very basic principles, but I thought, okay, I can do this. So when I went to Southwestern, it was Savelle Hall there. They had these 2 swing sets, and I knew everybody eventually is going to sit on these swing sets. So there's only 4 spots, so it's not a big group. So it's
Right.
not like there's this big, huge conversation going on. I was like, okay, if I sit down there and there's 1 person or 2 or 3, then as the minute I sit down, I'm going to ask a question, like, because they don't know who I am. And
Yeah.
so I came up with a list of little questions, and I was just like, hey, what's your name? Where are you from? Well, like right away, and then, oh yeah, well, how'd you end up here? Blah, blah, blah. What'd you want to do? So I didn't have to think of anything because I already knew, and I didn't tell them anything about me. I was just wanting to know about them.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, cool, we'll see you around. And I went away and I wrote them all down on a little notepad. And
My
in the
goodness.
first week, I met and memorized 200 people by their first name.
200.
And I had all
wow.
of this stuff. And so I would look over it each day so I would have it fresh on my mind. So as I walked around campus, I'd be like, hey, Raymond, or hey, Sue, or hey, Bob, or whoever it was.
Yeah.
And almost everybody said, wow, you're the first person to remember my name. So instantly, I was popular after all these years of like having no friends in an instantaneous moment. And it was just like this click in my head. Wow, because I grew up where if you're not this or you're not the star football player, you're nobody or whatever. And so it just kind of shattered all those.
Right.
And so something that I thought was DNA that they say, oh, you can't really change just the way you are, change like that, never return.
Wow. It just changed. And I can testify to the fact because you had already been at Sagu when I got there. And those swing sets at Savelle, I was in Savelle also. That's where we met up again. I remember the date that we met up. But I remember everybody on campus knew who Kyle Saylors was by that time. You would have never guessed that you was ever a shy person.
I even had a friend from school, and she came to school there. And so during Christmas, she went back home. She goes, I go to school with Kyle. He's the life of the party. They're like, oh, well, that's the wrong person. Yeah.
Well, Kyle, what inspires you in your movie making and screenwriting? What's some of the things, like, I know you had the opportunity, you and your brother Kenny did Veil of Tears. You're back and done other projects. What inspires you the most?
I don't really know how projects happen. Like, some of them you will get in your mind, and you're just like, that's what we have to do. Veil of Tears, for instance, that one very specifically, it was probably 3 or 4 years, I don't know, maybe longer before then. And this is how much one project can change your whole life. But we met a guy at a media conference, and we just became friends with him and some of the media staff at GFA, and they're an organization, and they feed tens of thousands of people a day all across India, and they've planted churches all across India. And they're just great people, like the truest, awesome people. So we said, hey, maybe someday we should come up with an idea for what a documentary would be. And we kept running into him at various media conferences and stuff. And we'd always kind of like in the back of our head think that, but it was just never the time. And then all of a sudden one day, the International press hit about the date rape in Delhi. And for whatever reason, that one rape, which is the prolific problem there, happened to get the news and it went around the world. And so they said, now's the time that the world is aware of the crimes against women there, the plight of women in India. And they were like, honestly, they said, we can't really, elaborate on this, but honestly, rape is one of the least of the problems. And so that was kind of the catalyst, and we just planned it out. It worked within there and their organization, and so they were the infrastructure, but we went and spent months in India, the whole thing, north, south, east, west. It was life full circle because we felt like Indiana Jones. We went planes, trains, automobiles, and camels, and motorcycles, and we went into places people have rarely ever been, that as far as Americans. And in fact, to this day, I've almost rarely met an Indian, if ever, here that has been to more places in India than I have. So
Wow.
yeah, and so it was truly a lifetime adventure. But then the film that we made, we decided to donate all of our profits back to GFA because we saw the work, which was incredible. So it came in theaters, in limited theaters.
What was GFA? What tell everyone?
Gospel for Asia.
Gospel for Asia.
But it came in theaters. Well, that weekend, it sold out almost every show. It was just in a very limited 12 cities, and it sold out almost every show. It actually went into profit back that first weekend, which is on documentaries almost impossible. But I believe in the first year, by October or by December, through just their website that was set up, that 100% went back to the women there and the women's programs there. Over $1 million came in. There's no call in the documentary. There's no like go give money. It was just from people seeing it, looking it up, say I want to help, through the website, and it continued to do that for the next year and year after year, and it exposed them. And so they said in our 35 years as an organization, we've never had anything that brought so much awareness and got them into areas they'd never been in.
Wow.
To a new space. And so I really think it's projects like that you never really planned. It wasn't like our life dream or anything, but it was just at one moment you just realized this is what we were supposed to do. And so as the catalyst moment, part of the deal was my brother actually went there and headed up their media and helped expand stations across India and this and that for a period of time when we left LA. And I came to Nashville, and he actually, part of the deal was that our mom would start working there. And so she had been working in a hardware store for 25 years. And so she finally got to work with an organization that she believed in and had purpose. And when you're open to possibilities, things that can change your whole life,
Absolutely. The relationships and the opportunities that you have all comes back down to the relationships and just God opening up the doors for you. And what I'm leading up to is one of your favorite things, and I love this concept. I love you talking about it, talking about getting over your shyness and all of that led to something that you don't even get paid for or anything. But tell us about Dinner with Dreamers.
So yeah, it was at a D-Day moment for me as well that started it. But it was basically like I was sitting actually right here on not this chair, but that couch right there in this room. And I was sitting there, and I'd gone through a divorce. I'd been married for 9 years, never anticipated having a divorce, never even thought about it. We won't go into that, but that was one of those moments in life that, it doesn't matter which side you're on, wherever it rips a part of you out, and so you just, you kind of come down. And so that's where a lot of people that I know that they can go wrong. They can go, okay, I'm going to go to the bar. I'm going to go to this or that. And I didn't. So the Christmas right after that was when I was sitting here, and it was just a quiet night. And this is a pretty decent sized log cabin. And so when you're here by yourself and you were supposed to be having a Christmas party this weekend, you're like, heck no, I'm not going to have a Christmas party.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. The reason that we bought this house was to settle down and have kids. Why on the earth did the reason that we bought this place that I don't technically need, it doesn't matter where I live because I travel all the time, why did we buy this? And now the reason walked out the door. And then at that moment, as clear as anything ever in the history of my life, I heard, invite your friends over. That's it.
Wow.
It's not like a lot of direction, but it's just like, invite your friends
Yeah.
over. So I picked up my phone and I thought, who are the 5 coolest people that I know that have the most incredible lives? Mm-hmm. And I thought, you know what? They've never met each other. Maybe now that's all it was started out as. And I said, you know what? I'm going to call them. I called all 5. And one of them was a country music artist guy. And he said, man, if those guys are going to be there, I want to play for them. So I was like, cool. And then an hour later, I guess he told somebody, one of his friends called, and he said, hey, if he's going to play here, I want to play here. The next day, I had like 7 music artists wanting to play. So I was like, well, dang, that's more than I have coming. And so I said,
wow.
What are you doing the weekend after New Year's? Because that's when nobody's doing anything. Anyway, fast forward 2 weeks later, I had 150 friends that I haven't really hardly ever seen.
Wow.
And we all got together. And it was an incredible night of just like, my rule was no ego. You can meet anybody in the house. I don't care if you're the top or you just started.
Yeah.
And that was it. It was just hanging out. I live on a lake. We had a fire pit. We had fire going. We had, food and just like having a good time. Just like a family reunion.
Yeah.
And little did I realize that one night would change the course of my life. And from the weekend after that, for a few days, I heard about, wow, that was cool. Then that was it. I didn't hear from it. 3 months passed by, and then all of a sudden I'm in where was I? I was in a studio, a recording studio. I walked in to pick up something, and a guy's playing the violin, and he stops, and he's like, hey, Kyle, I just want to let you know that because I played at your party, I got 6 gigs.
Wow.
And then I was like, oh, that's cool. The next day, Costco, somebody's like, hey, Kyle, because of your party, I met this guy. We're working on this TV show together. The next day,
wow.
Blah, blah, blah. The next day, the next day, the next day.
Awesome.
And it was just like, okay, that's so weird. This is weird. Okay. And then on the after about a week or so, a guy saw him. He said, go to dinner with us. It was a nonprofit. It's a long story, but it was funny. But basically, he said, at 30 minutes in, he goes, you want to know why you're here? He goes, we reconnected at the party. He introduced me to him, who introduced me to him, who introduced me to him. We're developing the Philippines, and he goes, this is your party was part of it. He says you need to have another party. 2 weeks later, I had another one. I said, if you know someone cool, invite them. So we had a couple of 100 people come, and then I had another one, and we had 300, and then another one, and we had 500, and another one we had 700. And I was like, okay, we might want to cap it at
Right.
it's 700 people if it's in my house. Yeah. So the last party, now I average about 700 people when I do my house parties, and through the night, not at one time, but they'll come, in waves.
Yeah.
But it's a little bit crazy. But since then, so I thought, well, if I meet these people, but I don't know who they are, they're just strangers. So I was like, how do you get to know somebody? You go to dinner. 30, 40 people said, you want to go to dinner? And I was like, man, I'll never get any work done. So I thought, what if I just invite them all at once? We did, called it Dinner with Dreamers. Didn't even know what that means. I just said, and so we all met each other, and then I did that again, and then again, and again. And so in 5 years, I don't know, but probably 6,000 people that I've gone to dinner with.
That's a lot of people to have.
And, and most of this is last minute. Most of it's within 48 hours. Most of it's not planned. Most of it, because my life is crazy. And so it's just like, but if I feel like I'm supposed to have one, I don't care if it's 4 hours later, I'll say, all right, Dinner with Dreamers, and boom, 40 people will show up. Wow. It's crazy. It's like, so like, and I've never tried, I've never spent time marketing it. It's in a private Facebook group. It's no one public even knows about it. It's only people in the group that were started as my friends, and then they invite their friends. And if they're in, then they invite their friends. And so that's all it is. And so through that, I've had dinners in London and LA and Orlando and I think kind of China we had one technically, but all over. Wow. And every single one, Phoenix, no matter where, how, it's packed. Like whatever room, 20 people, 10, 12, whatever room space I get, boom, people invite people. And I've met from the president of Malawi to a general from the army to the vice president of Disney over all the great movie classics to the executive producer at DreamWorks to famous actors and old stars and Grammy winners and like,
Right.
Neil Diamond's bass player. I mean, just the most random,
Yeah. Yeah.
people, and we all get together and we have a good time, and it's just like it's living life as if life is a big, huge party all the time, and
Sure.
and in doing so,
Yeah.
thousands of people have connected, and I'm only really connected to I know, like, everywhere I go, people will see me and they're like, wow, man, and I met this person, or I'll see friends who we started out on Facebook, two mutual friends, and now we have 350 mutual friends.
Wow. Yeah.
So
Yeah. That is amazing. What inspires you the most about Dinner with Dreamers?
at first, people even ask me, "Hey, Kyle, why are you doing this?" People are just coming to meet your friends, and so I was like, "Yeah, that's kind of the point."
Yeah.
And the randomness of it, I think, is where part of the magic is.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's never like, okay, I really need to. Let's see. I think this person and this person needs to meet, so I'm going to make sure they sit together and organize these tables. It's
Yeah.
none of that. It is
just happens.
it's a free for all. Like,
Yeah.
you show up, you sit down, you don't know who you're going to sit next to, and
Yeah.
some people may come and they meet nobody. And my thing is, like, if you meet 20 people, one of them you'll be like, that's the one I was supposed to meet,
Right.
And it's not like every person you meet, but I've had people, they'll call me. One of them was in L.A. They called and they said, Kyle, a year later, they said, a year ago, I came to your Dinner of Dreamers. I didn't even know what it was, and I was the first person there, and I sat down next to somebody who didn't know what it was, and they were one of the first people there. And from that moment, we are best friends in life, and I don't even know how I did life before knowing them. We talk every day, and I've only gone to one Dinner of Dreamers, but that's what they got out of it.
Yeah.
Another one was here. A girl came here, and I remember she had said, it was right around the times of the CMA Awards. She's like, man, I've never been to the CMA Awards. That'd be cool to go or whatever. But she came, and so I was like, sing at the party, 3 songs, just pick
Yeah.
3 songs, hop up there. Well, a panelist who happened to be somebody's plus one that they invited as a panelist, who I'd never even met before that night, he comes in, he got off his panel, he's like, well, I'm going to go check out some music. He walks in there, he hears her last song. He says, I want to sign you.
Wow.
Fast forward a year later, she's on the new Music City whatever show on CMT, one of their hit shows.
My goodness.
And not only did she get to go to the CMAs, she was on the red carpet. To see, and that both of those only came to one time. And so
Wow.
there's hundreds of those stories, and some of them are crazy. Like, one guy was ready to commit suicide, and he came in, and I said, hey, you, what's your vision? And he was like, he wasn't about to stand up and say, hey, I want to kill myself tonight.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
he was like, I want to help vets who are going through turmoil that want to kill themselves. And everybody applauded him. And
Yeah.
then he said, at that moment, it was like, boom, that's what I'm supposed to do in life.
Wow.
And then from that moment, he didn't want to kill himself anymore. Like,
wow, that was his D-Day.
Yeah.
Wow.
So-
You never know. But all of this probably wouldn't have ever happened if you wouldn't have had your D-Day moment. Just like,
Yeah.
you know what? I don't want to live like this anymore. I want to be over this hurdle.
Yeah.
So what would you say to anybody that is facing their hurdle in life and they are wanting to get their D-Day? What would you
Yeah.
say to somebody that's wanting to change?
So, for instance, I was in a spot that this is where a lot of people, when you have those cruxes in life, and I know some, there was somebody who went through a divorce at the same time as I did. And to this day, 5 years later, he's now spun into alcohol and drugs and on
Right.
and on and on. And it just continues to snowball. And so my choice was, I'm going to pour into other people, and I'm going to help other people, and
Wow.
I'm going to take away the LA mentality. I was in LA for 7 years, where it's, you don't share your connections, you hoard your connections because everybody's going to steal it. So I was like, forget
Wow.
it,
Yeah.
So I completely went against everything that even mentally people think, and I didn't care if they connected and they made a deal and I wasn't a part of it. I didn't care. I had no agenda. But what I did is I found myself a purpose, something to pour into, and by pouring into other people, I healed.
Right.
And so, and not only did I heal, I became a leader, which I don't think I ever was. Some people say, oh, you're either born a leader or you're not. I was not born a leader. I became one because I implemented. And all a leader is inspiring the next guy. Like, I don't think it's like, hey,
Yeah.
look at me. It's just like, hey, here's something to help you. that you can help the next guy.
That's good.
You know?
That's good.
And in doing so, that's why people will come to these and no one understands. I'll sit down in a meeting. I sit down with one of the film commission people or whatever. And in the meeting, they were like, okay, I don't know what you're doing over there in those dinners, but every week of my life, somebody walks in our office and is like, man, I went to this dinner and I went. And they're like,
wow.
They're like, I don't know what you're doing over there, and nobody really knows. Like, but all
Yeah.
it is, it's like when you walk in the door. I don't care who you are. I don't care where you've been. I don't care what your politics or what your situation in life or your belief system. When you walk out, you're gonna feel better than when you left. And I'm gonna hug you. I'm gonna care about you, and I don't care
awesome.
who you are or what.
Yeah.
And I think it's that multiplied. And so the last time here, we had a great Gatsby party.
Right.
And so everybody was dressed in like 1930s clothes. And I mean, it was literally like 98% of the people, hundreds and hundreds of people. It was like, it's kind of like a surreal world. Well, I'm in film and TV, so we
Right.
put up LED lights and red carpet and like all this
Wow.
stuff. And we're out in the middle of nowhere. People are like, where are we going? What are we doing? And, but what people kept coming, and they're like, I've never, ever been to a party that I felt welcome, that I felt, because I, being a shy person, I never felt welcome. I didn't know how to fit in. And so I teach people, if you see somebody no one's talking to, that's the person you're supposed to talk to.
Sure.
And so I literally
Right.
would go through the whole house. Is there anybody here not being talked to? And if it was, I would grab them and say, what's up? How are you doing? Here,
Yeah.
meet this person.
Right. Right.
And
Right.
so
Well, that is awesome.
it became our motto after working with a few egomaniacs that we want to only do stuff with great people, great cause, or a great adventure.
Right.
And if it's all three of those, great, even better. And
Awesome.
so that became our kind of our unspoken motto. And so we've got to go to Africa and India and Italy, and we've got to dine with kings and crazy celebrities and this
Yeah.
and that, and
Yeah.
different countries and cultures. And you know what we realized? We've been to the richest and to the poorest, is that everybody's the same. Like, people are people. I don't
Yeah.
care how many dollars you have. And I think if you treat people that way, that everybody's the same, you not only will you look at humanity different, your opportunities will go. And you know what? Everybody, I don't care. Not one meeting have I ever been into like, well, look at how I dress, or how I got to think that they may not like me. Like, we've never walked in a meeting in our life and thought, what if they don't like us? We don't care if they like us. And we're just like two dudes
Wow.
from Texas.
Yeah.
And we're just like, what's up? Here we are. You know what? And you know what?
Yeah.
That's what people love. They
Yeah.
love it when you are yourself.
They want genuine.
Yeah, and you're not trying to impress, because if you try to impress them, they know you're full
They see
of
right
it.
through it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
Here's a guy that loves life, loves people, and he loves God. Kyle, you are such an inspiration, not only to me, but I'm sure to a lot of people. And it shows. And it's just an amazing, incredible story hearing all of this. I'm just blown away. And is there any final words that you would like to say to anybody out there that maybe is struggling with stuff, maybe is just, man, I just wish that I could just get over this hump, whatever it is. You know, some people may be dealing with drug abuse or alcoholism or facing suicide, but there may be other people that were like you, facing shyness or whatever it is. But do you have any last inspiring words?
I would say is everybody is created with a purpose. If you go to YouTube, type in Activate Your Greatness by Miles Monroe. It's an 18-minute video. He describes your purpose greater than I think anything I've ever heard. But he talks about how that your gift is not for you, it's for other people. Like a tree, the fruit that is bared on the tree,
Wow.
it's for other people to partake of. It's not for you. So if you think, I'm a singer because I need to be this and this, you'll never be satisfied and you'll never reach whatever you're supposed to do. Your gift is for other people. And once you realize that, it doesn't matter the size. It doesn't matter if it's 1 or 5,000 or 10,000 or 1,000,000 or 2,000,000, or if it's just your family member, that if you do your gift, what you're supposed to do, and you do it well and you become the best at it, it will impact and it will keep on, and it's like a trickle effect. If this is your purpose in life, if anything, don't do it half-hearted. Like, try to be the best that you can at
Yeah.
wherever level. Like, when I look back at life, I look back and I think, man, my first productions were horrible. Like, you know,
Yeah.
and then through time, but if I stopped there because, oh wow, I don't have this camera or this or this, it has nothing to do with that. It has to do with doing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so
Awesomeness. Kyle Saylors, everybody. Kyle Saylors, thank you so much for allowing us to come into your home and for this interview, and remember that you inspire so many people. So thank you.
I got one last word, a P.S. He made me a piece of art, and I put it up on my wall in there. But he's painted, and I don't know how many pieces of art have you painted?
It's not many. It's
but
it's
like
not many.
the fact that
Yeah.
you did it, like you said, hey, this is something I don't even know if you realized you could paint or you just decided you could, but it's pretty dang good. And so and you find when you find that whatever it is that you do in your life, whether it's art or business or whatever it is, find the purpose behind it.
All right. Well, God bless you today, and we'll see you next time.